This is Woburn Safari Park, home to some of the most endangered wildlife on the planet. 600 animals, 76 different species. For the first time, the park allows access all areas, from dangerous carnivores to fragile newborns, in unparalleled close encounters. In today's program, there's an exciting addition to one of the park's rarest species. Not one, but two new baby giraffe. But for others, expanding their brood does not look very positive.
They smell already.
And in the lion reserve, alpha male Shane is ill. The anxious staff brace themselves for a tough 24 hours ahead.
It's not something simple. He's not eaten for days.
The safari park is set within the historic estate of Woburn Abbey in the heart of England. Every year, the park sees the sad departure of some of its animals, but also welcomes new arrivals. This year alone, there have been 55 newborns. But the birth that has all the keepers on tenterhooks is the arrival of a baby Asian elephant. This will be the first newborn elephant in Woburn's 40-year history. Mum-to-be Damini is blooming. Elephants have the longest gestation period of any land mammal. Damini is 12 months pregnant, but she still has another 10 months to go. She's been put on a healthy diet, but the keepers still need to monitor her weight.
Elephants have got a very slow, gradual growth, so we just want to make sure they're only putting on little bits of weight. If they gain too much weight, then we can alter their diet, just to make sure they're not putting too much pressure onto their bones as they're getting bigger, which can lead to health problems later on in life.
The keepers are going to need to be extra vigilant about her weight gain.
And at 12 months, the calf is fully formed, and after that, all the weight that Damini will gain will go onto the calf. So we need to monitor her weight very closely, just to make sure the calf's not too big, which then can help reduce any problems she might have when she's giving birth. 3,380 kilos today.
Damini's put on 100 kilos. But is she expanding in all the right places?
Even though Damini's pregnant, you won't actually notice a significant difference in her girth, mainly because we measure on the heart girth, which is just behind the front leg, where the calf at the moment is sat roughly in that kind of area. So, although we measure various different areas, we never actually kind of go down there, just because if they've got a full bladder, that'll make a difference to this area as well. And if they're breathing in as well, that'll make a difference just there.
Elephant births in captivity are highly risky. Damini may not reach full term, and even if she does, the trauma of birth can sometimes incite adult elephants to kill their calves when they are born. The park will keep Damini under close scrutiny during the tense months ahead. Breeding programs at the safari this year are well underway, and looking to increase their numbers are the South American rheas. These flightless birds live amongst the wallabies and are often mistaken for their larger African cousin, the ostrich. 4 birds are resident here, 3 females and 1 male. And they've been busy. The females will lay up to 30 eggs at one time, but the job of incubating them goes to the male. Looking after this clutch is He-Man. The males spend about 30 days sitting on the eggs. He-Man has been fiercely protective, rarely leaving his stash. But he's been sitting on the eggs for a week longer than usual, and the keepers are worried. With no sign of any chicks, the team needs to remove some of the eggs to investigate. The signs are not good.
I smell already. How many you got?
3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's one over there.
Chris and Terry leave some of the eggs behind so that He-Man doesn't get too stressed by his depleted collection.
So what we've done is we've just taken the eggs from the male rear and brought them up to this dark area so we can just have a look and see if we've got any fertile eggs. This is called a candling lamp, and we use that on the eggs to see if they're fertile or not. What it does is it shines a bright light through the egg, and you can see through the shell then if the egg's developing. If the egg is developing, you'll see an air sac developing, and then you'll see veins and blood vessels within the egg. So we'll have a look at this one, and we just put the light on the end and shine it through. What you can see with this egg is that there's no sign of any blood vessels or veins, so this is what we call a clear egg. It just means it's infertile and there's no baby developing. So we're going to work our way through and look at all the eggs, and if they're all infertile, then we're just going to remove them completely, not put them back under the male.
Sadly, none of the eggs in this clutch appear to be fertile.
Generally from the rear we'd get 2 clutches of eggs a year. We've already had one like this year that were again also infertile, so we may have to start looking at the birds and seeing what's going on with them. He's a young male that has produced and fathered chicks last year. It could be that our females are getting on a little bit. The weather has been quite changeable, so there could be a number of factors as to why this year we haven't had any chicks.
Chris collects the eggs for clues as to why they're infertile. The eggs have thick, protective shells, and what Chris discovers is not very pleasant.
So as you can see, this one is just completely rotten. So that obviously wasn't fertile at all. So obviously it's got quite a strong smell to it. So we're not going to do anything else with that now. We're just going to leave that because it is quite disgusting, and then we'll just dispose of it in the appropriate way.
Chris isn't hanging around. The rest of the rotten eggs now need to be removed from the rear enclosure.
It's a walk-through exhibit. The public are in there. We can't leave rotten eggs and things like that lying around. Also, from the health point of view of the birds, it's very bad for them to have things like that just simply lying around the enclosure.
The infertile eggs remain a mystery. With any luck, He-Man's egg-sitting duties will be worth the effort next year. Woburn is home to one of the largest prides of African lions in the UK. Their leader is King of the Jungle, Shane. At 14 years old, he's the dominant male of the 13-strong pride and rules the 32-acre enclosure. Shane lives with some feisty females, and 2 weeks ago was treated with antibiotics for a bite wound to his tail. He started to recover, but his condition has now deteriorated. Keeper Robert is worried.
All of a sudden he's got a bit slow and his back end's a little bit unsteady, and he's gone right off his food. He hadn't eaten for 5 days, so I'm wondering whether it's something to do with the old injury and he's got some infection. If it is, we can treat it with antibiotics. I've spoken to the vet The vet thinks it could be anything, could be heart problem, liver, kidneys. If it's something like that, there's not a lot we can do.
Shane is the most important lion at the park. He's in line to breed and produce the next generation of Pride leader.
So I'm hoping we can get him through this and breed with him before he gets too old, but, well, we'll have to see how it goes.
Last time he was treated, Shane got wise to the pills hidden in his meat and refused to eat them. So this time, Robert will crush the antibiotics down before adding them to the meat, in the hope that Shane won't notice them. But Robert is worried this elderly king has more serious health issues.
The problem also is he hasn't eaten for 5 days, so he might not even touch it. And if we can't get any of these down him, then possibly we'll have to dart him with something.
If Robert's new trick of crushing the antibiotics doesn't work, he will have no choice but to call in the vet for further investigation. Woburn Safari Park is home to one of the world's most elusive species, the eastern mountain bongo. These antelope share their 18-acre enclosure with the primates. In the wild, there are just 150 bongo left living in Kenya. They now face extinction within a generation.
Because they're only living in such little wild isolated population, they don't actually mate, and interbreeding is causing a lot of problems in the wild as well. So the elements are against them, that's for sure.
Breeding captive bongos is essential for their survival, and Woburn's collection has one of the most important males in the world. His name is Belchior.
In 2008, Belchior was the most genetically important Eastern Mountain bongo, so it was incredibly important that he was bred with. And in 2010, he actually fathered 3 calves at Woburn Safari Park. Belchior, what's this?
For the last few months, Belchior has been separated from the females. He is a thoroughbred bull, and some of the girls were related to him. But now they've been relocated, mating with the remaining girls can begin.
The calves that he'll produce will help the genetic diversity throughout the captive population, to which there are around perhaps 500 mountain bongo in captivity. And there is a chance that wild populations could have captive animals introduced into them to just increase the genetic diversity within the wild populations.
The day has arrived for Belchior to be reunited with the females. Bongo are generally very shy animals, but head keeper Lindsay will be on close watch today, as Belchior has an aggressive reputation.
He's quite a confident male bongo. The lion reserve is next to the jungle enclosure. Belchior likes going over there and seeing the lions, so I just need to prepare the staff in there that Belchior will be out, so they need to be on their toes a bit.
The keepers move the lions along the fence line. They don't want either species to get overexcited and spoil Belchior's reunion with the females.
Reserves to line 1. Come in, Robert.
And Lindsay.
Come in, Robert, just to let you know, I'm going to try and get Belchior out with the girls.
All right, Lindsay, yeah, we'll keep an eye on them. Cheers.
There we go, good boy.
Belchior is ready to regain his territory and his females.
Good boy. Jungle patrol, come in.
Come in, Lindsay.
Belchior's just headed into jungle.
Yep, okay.
Belchior immediately heads for the girls. But they are not impressed by his advances. Bongo males are generally solitary animals, only joining females during breeding season. This is merely an introductory outing for Belchior. He might not get round to mating for weeks. Either way, Belchior's foreplay isn't yet getting much of a reaction. In the wild, bongo live in dense forest areas. Their horns are designed so when they tilt their head back, they can run through foliage without getting caught. This is especially useful when they want to flee from predators. The girls here, though, just seem to want to flee from Belchior. Except one female, who is prepared to entertain his advances. Bongo are one of the largest forest antelope. Their coats get darker with age, and their white stripes help camouflage them from their enemies. This female is still playing hard to get. So Belchior turns his attentions to one of the others. The park has to hope Belchior's up to the task when the girls come into season in a few weeks' time. The future of his species in captivity falls squarely on his shoulders. For the moment, though, it's time for a little male bonding with Bocky, the drill monkey. In the safari's bird of prey arena, Jerry, the Harris hawk, is giving his keepers some exercise.
Good boy.
Jerry is still a youngster, and keeper Terry is keen that this raptor learns how to hunt his prey.
We've just practiced a bit of a hunting technique, really. Obviously, in a safari park, we really don't want him hunting, so this is as close to it as we can get. So we've just hidden the dummy bunny from him, popped him up on a post, and then pulled the dummy bunny out. So he's still using his instincts, he's still having to chase it a little bit, but he also knows it's a dummy bunny, but he does get rewarded for it every time he does it, so he's not doing it for no reason at all.
While Terry handles the lethal hawk, Laura takes charge of the victim. The birds have a wingspan of over 1 meter and a top flying speed of over 70 kilometers per hour.
Ready? The fake bunny is actually a real bunny skin, but it doesn't move like a bunny.
Native to the Americas, the Harris hawk has evolved as a perfect predator. And what makes them even more deadly is that they are one of the few birds of prey that hunt in groups.
He's very powerful. If that was a real bunny, his rear raker, his rear talon, the one just here, will actually go straight through the bunny's skull. So he's very powerful. Even through the glove, if a real rabbit was to run out here, he would squeeze my hand, and even through 2-3 layers of leather, I would still be able to feel that pressure on my hand. Go. Good boy. Jerry's done what we call to bind on, which basically means he's sunk his talons in really, really hard, because he says, it's my toy, I'm playing with it now, not you. Over you go. So we're just going to use an extra big bit to get him off nice and easy. But it just goes to show that he doesn't entirely know it's not real. Good lad.
Jerry is well on his way to perfecting his hunting skills, but this is just the rehearsal. In a few weeks' time, he'll be performing in front of the public, and then Terry's training will be put to the test too. It's feed time, and alpha male Shane slowly ambles his way into the lion's night den. Keeper Robert hopes the big cat will take his medication hidden in a piece of meat.
Shane. Wait. Shane.
But it's Tambi who makes a beeline for the meat.
Tambi, get out of there. Out of it.
But this piece isn't intended for her.
Shane. Wait.
Shane is on the defensive and growls at Robert. but he lacks the energy to make his way over to the cage bars.
Shane.
As the rest of the pride arrive, Robert makes a last attempt to try and coax his dominant male into taking the medication.
Wait.
He drops the meat onto Shane's paw and tries to encourage him.
I don't think he's going to touch it, even if I leave it. Right.
Shane refuses the bait, so Robert takes it away. Without medication or food, Shane's health will only deteriorate. Robert has no choice now but to call the vet. In the African lion enclosure at Woburn Safari Park, dominant male Shane is missing. His health has been deteriorating rapidly. After refusing his medication, he's being kept indoors with mate Tyra, so vet Susanna can examine him.
He's quiet for him, isn't he? Oh, he's pale. Hello, darling. Looks dehydrated to me as well.
He has been drinking.
Yeah, but it's whether he's making any use of that fluid, because his eyes are quite sunken.
Yeah. But he ain't eaten. This is his 6th day, and I doubt it's a sort of feed day, but I don't think he'll bother. Shane. Oi. I'll get him up and move him about.
Diagnosing Shane's condition is a challenge. He's an old cat, and there's nothing that's immediately obvious.
In an old cat like him, we'd be worried about his heart, his liver and kidneys, or any sort of tumour anywhere in intestines, liver. So just by looking at him, it's really limited what we can say. It's really hard to assess his breathing because he's growling. Every time he growls, he breathes out, so you can't see whether he's got increased effort or anything. But
A bit of fight in him, you know what I mean?
he's slow, isn't he, when he gets up?
Yeah, he does about 20 yards and then he'll stop. And then he'll, you know what I mean, he does make his way up the end of the section, like, so.
Yeah.
See, he's a bit stiff, and
He is stiff, but that often shows up more when they're weak for other reasons.
Susanna now has to make a decision on how best to treat Shane.
We'll anaesthetise him tomorrow. We'll leave it till tomorrow so that we can get a whole plan in place, get everyone ready for it, so that we can do as quick an anaesthetic as possible. The problem with most of the anaesthetic agents is they do sort of suppress the heart, suppress the breathing, and equally, because of where they're metabolised, they can affect the kidneys and the liver, etc. But we'll give him fluids, we'll try and support him, and if we can find out what's going on, hopefully we can get him fixed, get him healthy.
Robert has worked with Shane for 13 years and knows the big cat well. He wants to see him fit and healthy, but knows there's a critical 24 hours ahead.
He's got two choices, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean? We sort him out, or... because he's not taking nothing orally, so we've got to get something in him to help him. And if there's a problem there that we can find, save him any suffering or get him right, you know what I mean? You can't just leave him like that. So...
As Shane waits to have his exploratory examination, there's much at stake. Not only for him, but for the whole pride. Visitors to the safari park can come face to face with some of nature's giants. But with the park's smallest residents, 6 common marmosets, you'd be lucky to catch a glimpse of them. These 20-centimetre-long primates roam freely in cherry trees in one of the safari's wooded areas. This morning, they're getting served breakfast in a way that's very unique to these primates.
So this morning I'm just feeding the common marmosets some gum. So this is an artificial gum they get every single day, big part of their diet. In the wild, they'd gnaw into the bark of the trees, huge variety of trees, just to get the sap and the resin. It constitutes as much as 90% of the diet. So if there's not much food available, it means that as long as there's a tree there, they're going to get some food. So we put it in logs and pine cones for them to obviously lick through. They actually do it around here themselves as well. There's a lot of holes in trees around their little house that they've gnawed into to get up at the natural sap in those trees.
The artificial gum replicates wild tree sap and comes in powder form. The keepers mix it with water and give it to the marmosets. The parents always have first dibs on eating. And soon, more gum will be needed to go around. Mum, Lady, and Dad, Barney, have 2 sets of twins. The first are 7 months old and fully weaned. The second are only 6 weeks old and still clinging to both parents. They're suckling from Mum, but soon they'll be joining in the sticky feast.
They certainly be observing their parents to learn and to watch how to gnaw into the trees and to get at the sap and the resin in those trees.
Marmosets are native to Brazil, living in forest habitats. They use their nails to cling to the side of trees. Then, with lower incisors as big as their canines, they gnaw off the bark to stimulate the flow of edible sap. Everyone is full, so Mum decides it's time for family bonding with some grooming. While Dad, who's still peckish, tucks into another marmoset favorite, live locusts. There is a tense atmosphere in the lion enclosure. The team move their equipment into the pen to sedate male lion, Shane, and find the cause of his illness. They need to be prepared for all eventualities and emergencies. Working with sick predators is dangerous, and safety precautions need to be taken. Robert is in charge of the live firearms. Equipped with his dart gun, head keeper Chris takes aim.
Good boy. Yeah, good boy. Good boy.
He hits his target.
Got it? Yeah. Gone off nice and deep.
It takes Shane less than 5 minutes to react to the tranquilizer, an indication of how weak he is. As soon as he's fully unconscious, the team moves Shane into the makeshift operating theatre. It's vital Shane can breathe properly throughout the procedure. Vet Susanna inserts a tracheal tube to ventilate his lungs and prevent any obstruction of the airways.
Okay, let's get back in the gas.
Whilst Chris takes Shane's body temperature, Susanna uses an ultrasound machine to assess his abdomen.
He's not got any free fluid, so it all seems like edema, which implies that there is a big tumour in there, or his liver's not making protein.
Susanna has found a huge swelling in Shane's belly. This edema is a condition when an abnormal amount of fluid builds up in the circulatory system or in tissues between the body cells.
Possibly there's a mass there, but he's so broad it's hard to say exactly.
The diagnosis doesn't look good, and it's up to Susanna to make a decision.
this edema is grossly abnormal. The fact he's full of fluid, his blood pressure's awful. He's very dehydrated. I think that even though we can't see exactly what's going on, we are going to struggle to get him out of it without putting him on a drip for days and days and days, which we can't do. I think it might be kinder to put him to sleep. Because I think otherwise we'll come back in 2 days and do it after he's suffered more. And I wish we could have, find, and we will find what's going on with post-mortem, but, it would be nice to find out before, but...
You ain't going to solve it, are we?
We're not. No, it's not something simple, so... Yeah.
To put an end to his suffering, the decision has been made to euthanize Shane. It's up to Chris to handle the drugs that will end his life.
I'm sorry, big chap. He stopped breathing and this pulse rate's slowing a bit. They're gone. Okay.
Is that in?
He might twitch, obviously, so if everyone's just careful. That your goodbye.
Yeah. That's it.
With Shane gone, the Pride's future is uncertain. Without a leader and no cubs on the horizon, the keepers will begin the complex journey to find a new, dominant male. At Woburn Safari Park, there is sadness as they come to terms with the loss of their alpha male lion, Shane. But where there is death, there is life. Recently, the park welcomed a new addition to the Rothschild giraffe herd. Lindsay was born a few days ago, and she's settling in well. But the changes to the herd didn't stop there. Another female, Freya, was also expecting a calf. She now has a new little shadow following her every move around the 10-acre reserve. The giraffe herd have welcomed 2 new additions in less than a week.
It's been a hectic couple of days. We've had 2 giraffe calves born. Danica gave birth during the day in front of all the public, which was helpful, and Freya gave birth overnight.
Both calves are females. Good news for the park, because males tend to behave aggressively as they get older. And the new girls are great news for the species as a whole.
Rothschild giraffe, obviously a critically endangered species, and we've bred 2 females, which are obviously going to go on and breed further.
Each giraffe has different markings, as individual as human fingerprints. Their colouring changes as they grow older, and they have another unique characteristic.
The great thing about giraffe calves is they're one of the only animals that are born with horns. They've got the little tufty bits on their head. That's cartilage, and within 48 hours the cartilage begins to stand up, and then within 4 years it will have ossified and fused to the skull.
The calves learn from their mothers. Danica is a more protective parent and takes her baby inside.
Once the calf's born, it'll normally spend the first week or 2 tucked up in the house or in the shelter somewhere while mum goes off to feed. It's quite natural that it's quite quiet for the first couple of weeks. Normally 3 weeks onwards it should get a bit more active. Within 6 weeks it's a bit more independent, moving away from mum a bit more.
But Freya and her calf are breaking the rules. Freya is a first-time mum, but very relaxed, taking adventures with her newborn, Luna, all in her stride. Within days, the little female is certainly making her presence felt. The big test will be when the two babies meet each other for the first time.
Come on, good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
New male rhino Kai has had a busy couple of weeks since his arrival. The southern white rhino made a big impression on his new female herd.
Good boy.
Steady.
Hey.
And the bad behavior continued when they met a second time.
All right, good girls. Steady. Steady.
The keepers were forced to trim both of his horns, which will grow back again, for the safety of his female companions. Kai needs to settle now before he's allowed to roam outside in the big African reserve. So Keeper Nick is trying to keep him entertained. He's opted for some unusual aromatherapy.
Odd as it may seem, that what I'm doing here is putting Marmite on ball for Kai, because at the moment, before he's allowed out into the section, we're finding that he's getting a little bit bored. Although he's got room to go into all the pens in the house and to walk around the house at the back and into the sanyard, it's a bit repetitive, it's a bit boring for him to do every day. So just to try and spice up his life a little bit, we're going to put some things that really smell out here for him, and hopefully he will use them. I've got some very cheap aftershave here that I'll be using, and I'll probably put some lion dung out and maybe some of the females' dung as well. So spread it out a little bit and just cross my fingers and hope that he'll have a good sniff around and while he's doing it, enjoy it.
With the pungent picnic laid out, Kai is released. The bull rhino is on high alert. His ears twitch and his tail curls up. All the aromas hit him at once.
Good boy, Kai.
The Marmite immediately grabs his attention. You either love it or hate it, and it seems Kai loves it. But not as much as the female rhino's urine. Smell is a rhino's most powerful sense. Kai reacts as he would in the wild when coming across the scent of a female. He holds his head up, mouth and nostrils open, so the waft of the urine goes over receptors which heighten his sense of smell even more.
The one patch that he really likes is, it's not surprising, it's the female's urine. So that obviously is his #1 choice.
Kai starts to scent mark, ensuring that when the female rhino return, they now know that this is his domain. But Kai quickly realizes that it's not just the other rhino he can smell. Bizarrely, the scent of the aftershave makes him quite literally jump with joy.
It's something different, you see, it's something different. Something he's not used to, and he's making the most of it.
That is, until he heads over to the lion dung.
You don't like that one, do you? That's a typical, almost scared version. Something has frightened him, and he just wants to get away from it. There was something in his genetic makeup which made him very wary of it. But then he'll turn around and look at it again, and then he'll think, well, it hasn't bitten me, so maybe I'll go back and see exactly what it's all about. It's keeping him mentally and even physically active, and keeping him mentally stimulated is really the name of the game, and just from this little time we've had, he's done exceedingly well.
Soon, Kai will be allowed out into the main safari drive, where he'll encounter the smells of not only the other animals, but of the park's visitors and their cars. It's been just a few hours since dominant male lion Shane was put to sleep. Before his body begins to decompose, vet Susanna needs to perform a full post-mortem to try and determine the cause of his illness. After the autopsy is complete, samples from each of his vital organs will be sent to the laboratory for analysis. Assessment of any organs that appear normal will also help with scientific research.
Still got quite a lot of body fat, so it shows he has been in good condition.
Samples are taken from the enlarged spleen. As she examines the liver, Susanna finds something of concern.
There's something abnormal going in the liver. It's a cyst. They can get parasitic cysts. They can get, sort of little tumours, things like that. It was fluid-filled, so we'll send that off to the lab and see what they think of that.
It's the examination of the heart and lungs that firmly points towards the rapid deterioration of Shane's health.
I think it's cardiorespiratory system. There are a few enlarged lymph nodes. We might find some other problems, but in an old animal, you sometimes will find things that weren't directly related to the cause of death.
The post-mortem confirms that Susanna made the right decision in euthanizing Shane.
He was starting to suffer, and we couldn't let him continue like that. And unless there's a treatment that's feasible in a big cat like this and fair in one of his age, that's going to get him better quickly and keep him better for a significant amount of time, you can't mess around with keeping them alive when it's not in their best interest.
The quest is now on to find a new alpha male for the African lion pride. But first, the team will get Shane's post-mortem results.
It is nice to know that, we certainly did the right thing to put him to sleep, and there wasn't really anything we could do to prevent it happening.
One of the Ankoli cows goes into an unexpected and dangerous labour, and concern mounts over the health of the park's oldest female rhino, Pongola.
It's really now the lap of the gods whether it goes very smoothly or it doesn't.
Oh, sweetheart, good girl.
There's a brand new Safari Park adventure next Saturday at 9, and one amazing double bill on the way next Sunday, exposing the colourful life within Panama's diverse ecosystem, the secret life of the rainforest from 8, and that's followed by an exploration of endless peril across the Serengeti in the wildebeest migration, nature's greatest journey at 9.